Tonight, fate sealed, the Supreme Court rules the BC Ostrich cull can proceed. A researcher at the University of Northern BC looking to improve how fracking is done. And slow down, Northern BC motorists with a dubious distinction. Good evening and thank you for joining us. We begin tonight with the Supreme Court of Canada dismissing an appeal by a BC ostrich farm to stop a cull order to euthanize its flock. The decision ends a months-long legal road for the farm that has since sparked a debate over accusations of government overreach. Judy Trin has our top story.
You want to know what pain looks like, Canada?
The end of a saga that began last December when dozens of birds died on the Universal Ostrich Farm.
She's going to lose everything she's ever loved for 35 years.
The Canadian Food Inspection Agency found traces of H5N1 in 2 dead birds and ordered the flock to be culled to contain the virus. The farm fought the order to the Supreme Court, which dismissed the case.
We obviously are pleased to see the decision of the Supreme Court. This is a decision that is following the science and evidence.
More than 300 birds will now be euthanized. Virologists say testing the birds is not an option.
There's really no practical way to actually test these birds. We don't know where the birds might be shedding virus if they are indeed still infected. These are 7 to 9 foot tall birds that are very strong, very fast, very dangerous to people.
Under the Health of Animals Act, the CFIA can now move ahead with depopulation and disposal and warns that attempts to obstruct the work of its officers could result in prosecution. Dozens of protesters continue their march.
Today you test our faith like you've never tested our faith before.
Praying for a change of heart. The farm was supported by members of the Trump administration, including Secretary of Health Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Chief of Medicare Dr. Mehmet Oz. An American billionaire also contributed $50,000 to the farm's legal fight and is asking Prime Minister Mark Carney to intervene.
I am asking for sympathy and I'm asking for common sense to prevail.
This culling of poultry or stamping out policy that the CFIA is carrying out is an international standard that numerous nations have signed on to, including the U.S. The aim is to contain outbreaks. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
Another emergency diversion in Northern BC to tell you about tonight, this time at the Dawson Creek and District Hospital. Northern Health making the announcement on social media. Services at the Dawson Creek Emergency Department were interrupted from 5 a.m. to 3 p.m. today. Health officials say the closure was due to staffing challenges. When ER services are not available, Northern Health says residents should call 911 to be transported to the nearest available facility. The last diversion in Dawson Creek was on October 3rd. New cases of the measles here in Northeast BC is ticking upward. The BC Centre for Disease Control confirming 26 new cases across the Northeast since last Thursday. That brings the total here to 251. Health officials also say there's currently 9 active cases in our region. They say the new total of cases across the province has now reached 337. Only 1.3% of British Columbians live in Northeast BC, but the region is responsible for 75.6% of measles cases this year. Health officials say that's because of misinformation about the safety of vaccines and vaccination hesitancy due to COVID-19. Less than a week after the end of a provincial funding program, care homes are already seeing the effects. Many of BC's most frail and elderly are now bearing the brunt of government cost cutting. Penny Daflas now on why a critical staffing shortage in long-term care could impact everyone's access to health care.
Nestled in the heart of Vancouver's West End is one of BC's liveliest care homes.
Could be better than heaven. It's great.
Lil Nielsen moved to Hera Park after she turned 101 years old.
They've got that culture of caring, of empathy, of encouragement.
But there's no longer government funding to pay those staff members overtime. Hours earlier, Lil and the other 153 residents had to eat breakfast in their rooms because there weren't enough nurses to help get them ready.
So instead of coming down and socializing with other residents, interacting with staff, being in a different environment, they end up being isolated in their rooms.
Earlier in the week, a care aide called in sick and they had to reassign staff on shift.
That meant residents went without showers.
Since November 1st, not-for-profit operators across BC are facing those dilemmas daily, while care homes run by health authorities pay whatever it takes to get staff in the door.
There's no doubt that a senior will do way better in long-term care than they will in acute care.
BC's Seniors Advocate is being inundated with messages from concerned family members, and he's pushing for more supports.
Lots was invested when this was on the front pages of the papers, when this was on the 6 o'clock news. They are swimming in the same pool looking for staffing as the hospitals are looking for.
The Ministry of Health has reiterated pandemic-era funding has come to an end and they're investing to train new staff. But that doesn't help seniors who need help today.
They're kind of hidden away here, and they don't have the same level, I don't think, of advocacy.
So families and charitable operators are speaking up.
None of us are here to make a profit. We dedicate ourselves to this industry to serve the seniors.
At this moment, BC hospitals are full of seniors who need the assistance in long-term care. That makes wait times longer for other patients, while elders are deprived of a sense of home.
Here comes the rock and roll party.
Penny Daflot, CTV News, Vancouver.
It's that time of the year again where the change in weather can lead to dangerous driving conditions. With that in mind, every October, the RCMP rolls out its Drive Relative to Conditions campaign. During that month, the BC Highway Patrol issued almost 8,000 speeding tickets across BC. Mounties saying some motorists were still driving like it was summer, not caring about the speed limit. And the region of the province with some of the worst driving conditions leading the way. Motorists here in northern BC issued close to 1,500 citations. Police say the campaign shows that British Columbians still have a lot of work to do in making the roads safer for everyone. EDF Power Solutions proposing a second wind farm project in the Taylor area after getting started on its first wind project in the area last year. The Taylor 2 wind project was discussed at the PRRD board of meeting today. The company says the wind farm would have a capacity of 200 to 220 megawatts generated by 30 to 45 turbines. It would be located about 26 kilometers south of Fort St. John and adjacent to the first Taylor wind proposal. The first project received an electricity purchase agreement from BC Hydro in 2024. EDF Power Solutions will try to obtain another purchase agreement for Taylor 2 wind through BC Hydro's 2025 call for power. The company says the expansion makes sense because the area has strong wind and consistent wind. It adds the two projects can also share the same infrastructure. Both wind farms are expected to become operational in 2031. A researcher at the University of Northern BC in Prince George is looking to make oil and gas extraction safer and less harmful to the environment. UNBC announcing a rock mechanics lab is being added to the School of Engineering. Dr. Wenbo Zhang says the lab's goal is to solve safety and efficiency issues associated with the oil and gas industry and fracking in particular.
This new lab, we support my ongoing research into the mechanical behaviors of deep geological formations.
Dr. Zhang says the lab is the first of its kind in northern BC. Most of the oil and gas well sites in our province are located right here in the northeast. Dr. Zhang says that proximity will allow his team to obtain rock samples from active shale gas development formations in the region. He adds, fracking has been known to cause micro-earthquakes, especially in the Peace region. Dr. Zhang says they will conduct fracking simulations, hoping to improve environmental protection. The lab will be operational at the beginning of next year. The Pembina Pipeline Corporation has signed a long-term deal for transport and liquefaction capacity with Cedar LNG. It's a 20-year agreement with energy giant Petronas. The deal would see 1 million tons a year for the liquefaction of its natural gas and at the floating export terminal in Kitimat. Petronas is one of the largest natural gas producers in Canada. The deal will give the company access to the planned natural gas export outlet on BC's north coast. Cedar and LNG is being developed by a partnership between Pembina and the Isla Nation. The cleanup of a train derailment near Kamloops that spilled more than 12,000 liters of fuel continues today. The Environment Ministry says the 17-car CPKC train went off the track Saturday, sending several cars down a steep slope and into Kamloops Lake. Containment bombs were set up immediately after the split, and the submerged cars were the initial focus of the cleanup. Earlier this week, the province said cleanup of the spilled fuel began and the derailed car were collected from the water. No one was injured and the cause of the derailment is still being investigated. The deadline to avoid a strike by WestJet flight attendants is fast approaching. The current contract is set to expire on December 31st. Ahead of that deadline, the Flight Attendants Union has released an animated video to highlight their concerns about working conditions. Flight attendants say they're only compensated for the time that planes are in the air. It's the same issue that led to a strike by Air Canada flight attendants in August. A bill aimed at ending unpaid work for flight attendants is being considered by the federal government. The healthcare workers that work alongside registered nurses in Alberta have voted overwhelmingly in favor of a strike if no collective agreement is reached.
Their withdrawal of services would impact the healthcare system altogether and the ability of Albertans to receive the care that they need.
Alberta Union of Provincial Employees President Sandra Azokar revealed that 98% of members voted in support of a strike mandate. She said the workers are tired of stagnant wages and unsafe working conditions. The results have not yet been certified by the Alberta Labor Relations Boards, but the earliest the union could serve 72-hour strike notice is November 17th. The Supreme Court says it will hear a challenge to Saskatchewan's controversial law on the use of pronouns in schools. The law prevents children under the age of 16 from changing their pronouns or names at school without getting prior consent from their parents. Premier Scott Moe's government invoked the Canadian Charter's so-called notwithstanding clause to pass the law. An LGBTQ rights group based in Regina says that law caused irreparable harm to gender diverse youth because it can expose them to harm, including potential abuse at home from parents. The government argues parents should be involved in their children's decision at school. Earlier this year, the Saskatchewan Court of Appeal ruled the LGBTQ group's challenge could move up to a higher court. Meantime, Jean Chrétien says Canada's premiers are too quick to use the notwithstanding clause for, quote, marginal reasons. The former Prime Minister believes they've lost sight of its original purpose. Chrétien spoke at a fundraising event in Toronto for the charity group Journalists for Human Rights. He was the Justice Minister who negotiated the clause's inclusion in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in 1981. Chrétien says the provision was designed for legislatures to step in and override certain portions of the Charter for up to 5 years when a court ruling went too far. He says provinces are using the notwithstanding clause for anything these days, and that worries him very much. In the federal budget passes in the House of Commons, we could see cuts to government agencies like Stats Canada. It's responsible for collecting, analyzing, and distributing data. Abigail Beeman has the details.
It really worries me.
Munir Sheikh resigned as Canada's chief statistician over the Harper government's 2010 decision to kill the long-form census. Today, he's concerned about new Statistics Canada cuts in the budget, saying Canada already has substantial data gaps, which will now multiply.
Cuts at an organization like Statistics Canada is an indication that our country is getting poorer, and we can't afford to do the things that are an absolute necessity.
Deep in the budget annex, under department-specific cuts, it reads, the frequency of data collection will be reduced where the requirements can be met through statistical modeling or other modern methods. In addition, adjustments will be made to the frequency and level of detail collected for datasets which demonstrate less relevance to Canadians. CTV News asked Statistics Canada and the Finance Department a whole slew of questions. What type of data will be collected less often? What will be collected with fewer details? And who decides what has less relevance for Canadians? They didn't answer any of them. In a statement, a Department of Finance official said further details on savings under the Comprehensive Expenditure Review will be available through Statistics Canada in due course.
Lack of information always makes me nervous.
Biostatistician Erica Moody says the work of Statistics Canada is critical, from government to business to community groups to your personal life, and less of it is worrying.
Cuts to these data or data collection, the fineness of this data collection could impact things like transit lines in my neighborhood. On the other side, as a researcher, it also affects the work done by my students.
Oh, and from our archives, among those in support of Statistics Canada during the long-form census death fiasco, then Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney.
We will need to evaluate the impact of any proposed changes.
The former head of Statistics Canada warns if the Canadian economy gets worse, even further and worse cuts to data are very possible. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, Ottawa.
More fallout this evening from the U.S. government shutdown. The Federal Aviation Administration is taking the extraordinary step of reducing air traffic by 10% across 40 markets. The reduction will start tomorrow morning and could impact thousands of daily flights. It's aimed at maintaining travel safety as more air traffic controllers are showing signs of strain. It's not clear which airports or cities will be affected, but an official says restrictions could remain in place as long as necessary. Air traffic controllers have been working with no pay since the shutdown began on October 1st. Stay tuned, we'll be right back with weather.